let's get to politics here. Denver Riggleman gets in the race, kind of fanfare, gets in the paper. There's a poll comes out, 10% or 22% name recognition or something. And everybody's like, wow, this is interesting. And then I haven't heard a peep out of him.
He's taking some whacks at some legislation down here. Put out some, I would say, inflammatory emails. Have strayed somewhat from reality, or if you want to talk alternate facts. He took a whack at a bill saying it was a Dominion bill. It's not. And you look at the article he wrote online, and people say, "Oh yeah, get in there and fight." That's what people want him to do, and irrespective of the fact that it's wrong, and not necessarily the policy itself. I don't really know if he's right or wrong about that, but the underlying premise is that it was a Dominion bill is fundamentally wrong.
It's not.
It's not. But you can't push back on that. You can, but so far. But
I just don't see him
see the value of it.
Making the splash that he needs to make. He has a great opportunity. The people that he's running against, except for Ed Gillespie, are here in the General Assembly building. They are tied up. They can't do anything for the next 30 days. He ought to be out 3 times a day at every locality doing a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner somewhere, meeting people, taking advantage of this free time that he has, and raising money. And I don't see on Facebook that he is having that kind of impact and meeting the numbers of people that he needs to. And with that comes the free press of a candidate for governor counts. Yeah. So there's a way to get your name out in a short period of time, especially when you have a gift from running for folks that are handicapped by being in the legislative session, and I don't see him capitalizing on it.
I don't either. You're right. It's a great time. What would some other candidate be doing, a la Glenn Davis, who I did a Facebook Live with yesterday? It's got 800 views on Facebook. I mean, he'd be out there doing Mellow Yellow in his Facebook Lives and his social media wherever he goes. So he's got an opportunity. I don't know. And you're on the clock. The reality is you're on the clock.
It's like a basketball game.
You've only got
down by 20. You're already getting the second half just started. You've already wasted 3 minutes. Now you got 17 minutes left.
You don't have that much time left. Roanoke College came out with a poll yesterday. He's at 1. That's tough. Yeah. It's tough to climb over 2 other guys and pass Ed Gillespie, who's at 24.
He's at 1%.
He's at 1%.
Yeah, Denver Riggleman at 1%. I mean I didn't go over the poll because it's the poll when they put it out said don't really read anything into this poll because 80% of people are undecided. They haven't heard of anybody. But in the poll, Riggleman's still at 1%. Look, I thought his announcement was great.
Yep.
He kind of built it up, and then he announced, and then he had some great sound bites.
He ought to have had the RV ready to go and say, we're announcing and we're getting on the bus from here and we're going.
But
and
that was it. He had this big announcement Saturday, a couple of weeks ago, right, at the distillery. He had 300 people there. And Facebook, everybody's fired up. And then
what?
Nothing.
And you contrast that with...
I haven't even heard from the campaign.
Contrast it with the Democrats. Perriello jumped in the race, and there's articles yesterday that now he is tied with Ralph Northam.
At 12.
But he's tied. He's
at 12. There's 75% undecided in the Democratic primary. Well, that's huge. The big number in that was how undecided it is.
Yeah. It's tied at 12 and 75% of Democrats undecided.
Right.
I mean, isn't that great news for Perriello?
It is great news.
It's parity.
But it's also a sign the Democratic Party coming out of the 2016 election is soul-searching. They're unknown. I mean, they know Ralph Northam. He's got name ID, and it's not a knock on Ralph. They're just going, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? As we've said on this show before, everyone likes Ralph. Good guy.
Absolutely. Best general election candidate.
Ben Markey called in. I was the Oppo research guy on Ralph Northam. We couldn't find a thing, and we tried. That's our job.
For weeks and weeks, he said.
There's nothing. Right. So
it's an empty page.
And I was with Ben Tribbett after Penguins Capitals game.
Who won?
Unfortunately, the Capitals.
You're a Penguins fan,
Penguins
right?
fan.
Oh, by the way, sidebar, hold that thought. Ben went to Vegas, came back with a lot of money.
He's smart.
I mean,
he knows how to gamble.
Lot. I don't mean like a couple thousand. No, I mean a lot of money.
Like Nick's salary.
He's good. He's taking February off.
Like in the tens of thousands.
Yeah, he's very good at that kind of stuff. Anyway, and Ben and I have known each other for years, and we were walking out of the game, and I said, "So, how are the Democrats? What's going on with your party?" I said, "Y'all getting fired up coming in 2017?" He said, "No, we're devastated." And there's just that time at which there's just going to be that soul searching, like after the Steelers lost. What are we going to do next year? Are we going to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off? And what are we going to be doing going forward? And they're at that point right now. And it's a fascinating time in politics. What are Republicans going to do? Congressmen who are running in 2018, senators, senatorial candidates, gubernatorial candidates in 2018. What's the Republican Party going to do in 2017? These are fascinating stories. And Virginia's place in that is absolutely critical, as we're the ultimate bellwether. And so everyone should really pay attention to what's going on in Virginia politics.
So the 74% Democrats undecided, Chris Saxman, that this is a soul searching of the party.
I think it has to be. If you're that undecided, and you're 5 months out of the primary, and again, it's not a knock on Ralph, and it's not a banner day for Congressman Perriello. They're going, who are we? Where are we going to go? That's my read on a poll when you have a former congressman, a sitting lieutenant governor,
and there's 75%.
And there's 75% undecided.
No, I think that makes sense. And
that's why you pay me.
And Andrew, you're right about Riggleman. I thought, wow, what an opportunity! Huge turnout, and then 2 weeks go by nothing.
And he's got such a great story. He would be such a great candidate, and he's got a good consultant. I don't know what's going on there.
In the 2 weeks since he announced, it's been 2 weeks, hasn't it?
Yes, I think it was the weekend that we all got snowed in.
Yeah, week or two.
Week before session started.
Week before the session started is when he announced. The Saturday before the session started. I was in D.C. all week last week, so I was somewhat out of the loop. But in the 2 weeks since we convened, I think the inevitability of the Gillespie nomination has increased.
I think,
I have him as a favorite. But now there's a sense of Republicans that he's going to be the nominee. And when you get that inevitability, it's good and it's bad. It's bad because of complacency, but it's good because it's tough for other people to break through that. And that's what it's feeling now to me like.
Just like what we said with Denver, none of the other candidates are doing what they need to do to knock Gillespie out of the front-runner spot. Nobody is, as of yet, taking out the knives. Nobody's really going for him, but also nobody else is really getting out and pounding the pavement like he is. Ed is everywhere.
Corey Stewart's going after, but I really don't see that campaign. I don't see it. I had a call from a couple of people. They're still trying to frame it as he's the first test of Trump, and I think it was Alan Sutterman at the Associated Press yesterday who asked me about it. I said President Trump wouldn't know Corey Stewart if he jumped in his lap and called him daddy. I mean, he doesn't even know who he is or care. So there's going to be no endorsement from Trump. He fired him. So this whole thing that Stewart is doing is stupid. It's not true. It's a lie. It's going to backfire.
I think Stewart overplayed his hand on being Trump's heir apparent in Virginia.
Yeah.
And he's not.
Well, the reality is none of it's sticking anyway.
Right.
Even if it did, it's just not sticking.
It's not sticking.
It's not. And so when Ed's at 24 and the other guys are trying to get up the ladder, if you will, Frank's in session, difficult political climb, and he'd be the most likely one to challenge, I think, long term.
That's what I thought.
In the next 4 months to really try to close the deal in May.
Close the gap, you mean?
Yeah, we'll close the gap and then close the deal.
Right.
It's a tough sled, and this is why understanding politics, there's a rhythm to it, and there's a timeline. And when you understand the timeline, you can maximize and make sure that your efforts are efficient. And Ed has been able to capitalize on that. He was around in 2014 running statewide. He's better known. These are the benefits that are built in to that play.
Yeah, I think he's got a lead that is approaching now what could be insurmountable, I think. And, I call it like I see it, Andrew. I think Wagner, I thought from the beginning he was the only guy that could give him a tumble, but time is running out.
It very much is. I mean, Wagner would have to come out of session so strong, and what we've talked about, he would have to come out and the day after session gavels out, spend it campaigning 24 hours
Balls
a day.
To the walls.
Absolutely.
The
Go everywhere, up on media, TV, radio, and you got to have money to do that.
Yeah, Tim in Chesapeake says
that can't be countered.
Tim in Chesapeake says Jeb Bush was supposed to be inevitable. Gillespie can be beat with the right candidate.
Jeb Bush wasn't winning.
Jeb Bush wasn't winning. Tim,
his own people weren't supporting him, and they were on the payroll.
Yeah, and there was no, of course, I believe what Tim's saying because obviously I was for Trump from the start, and I knew Bush would be there after New
And Trump
Hampshire.
was working. Trump was doing 3 or 4 rallies a day.
Back then.
None of these other guys are
Jeb
doing
Bush was
anything.
never in the lead.
It's not a look. When I do analysis, it doesn't matter who, except if I endorse somebody like Trump. It doesn't matter who I like. I try to give it to you straight. And I'm telling you guys, unless something happens, Gillespie is going to be the nominee. Something has to happen.
It's 5 months.
Yeah.
January, February, March really doesn't matter.
And these guys still have to file and get on the ballot.
Well, true.
They got to be somewhat organized, and some may not.
It's easier now, and they're organized, and they're doing that. Look, Frank's a very smart politician. He knows Virginia. He knows Virginia politics. He knows the legislature. He presents. He has a great ad on your radio station.
Great ad.
That's a great ad. The question is, will it get out there? Will it make a difference? And does the Trump factor of 2016 translate to Virginia? And this is why, going back to my previous remarks, Virginia's role in 2017 is to either underscore Trump or to counter it nationally. This is the first test. This is the first market test of what's going on in Washington.
Yeah, because you got to throw New Jersey out.
I don't because I think Virginia still is a swing state, and less so than it used to be. Potentially, but you have to understand that this is our role as Virginians. We're as George Allen was to Clinton, as George Bush was to, or Mark Warner was to George Bush, as Bob McDonnell was to Barack Obama. What is the trend line here going forward, and how is the nation going to react to it? And this is their first market test. This is the first real poll on the new DC.
Exactly. So we'll see what plays out, but I guess we started this conversation by saying that Denver Riggleman had a great opportunity, and I think he squandered 2 weeks. I don't know what they're doing, but I think they just wasted 2 weeks.
It was wasted. It's not insurmountable. He can come back, but what's he been doing? It has
because
been
he's got to
2
catch
weeks.
lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
And his attacks on Richmond, quite frankly, fell on deaf ears. There's no echo. There's no one can go, yeah, you're right. People go, no, actually, we got a pretty good government.
Yeah.
We're growing as a state.
Yeah.
We've been better, but we've got a pretty good government here. And there's no really compelling reason to take a whack at Richmond.
All right, Lieutenant Governor's race on the Republican side, tied. I've got it a 3-way dead heat, Davis, Vogel, and Bryce Reeves, because we don't know what's going to happen with this email. We don't know if Reeves is going to file a lawsuit. But a lot of people thinking, or I'm thinking anyway, maybe a fourth candidate gets in.
It's a stalemate, as all three of those folks are capped and handicapped by the General Assembly session. So nobody can really do much. They're all here in Richmond all day, every day. There are rumors of a fourth candidate getting in. I mean, what we talked about before, now is the time to exploit it, because you'd be the only one in that race that is not obligated to stay here in Richmond and can't raise money.
You got a short window, though. You got to get signatures.
Yeah.
Chris, what happens if somebody else
someone
gets
in? And Pete Snyder, former lieutenant governor candidate, and last time around has been rumored to get in or be thinking about getting in. The splash line is they're not good. I can do better.
Well, and Pete can run against elected officials in general, politicians, more of the same status quo.
Businessman, and he can self-fund, which was one of the selling features of Donald Trump at the beginning. People loved the fact that he was financing his own campaign. So if Pete comes in and says, I like them all, but they're not being serious. They're not talking about the issues that are important to Virginians, blah, 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 blah. They're caught up in this email controversy, blah, 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 blah. I have the experience. Let's get going. And then turn it around and get more Northern Virginia votes for Republicans. Then he has a credible narrative to tell.
He has a reason to get in.
But his time is short.
Yes.
And shortening. Days.
He's got days. Several days, I think.
By the
Friday.
I think. Any more.
What's today? Wednesday?
Yes.
I think your absolute deadline's Monday, January 30th. That's it. I think if he's going to get in,
because his big advantage.
I mean, look, I have talked to him, and right now, he says, look, I'm the Gillespie chairman. Now let's talk about that. He's the Gillespie chairman. Let's say he says, okay, I'm going to run for Chris's reasons. Well, he can't turn away from Ed. He's his chairman. I mean, it would be disingenuous.
Well, it also would tag Ed if he is still the chairman, potentially in the eyes of primary voters, as de facto giving grace to Pete.
Hurt him or help him?
It could hurt him. It could hurt Ed. If he says, he would probably call Ed first and say, hey, I'm thinking about running. And he says, if you do, you got to resign as my campaign chairman because you can't do that. So that's part of the dynamics that I would imagine are going on if they are, in fact, going on. But the fact that matters, we're talking about it, and that's not good for either of the three candidates who are already announced.
That's the thing. It's not good for the three candidates. If you announced, if you're Pete Snyder, you get in, you're Gillespie's chairman. I would think that he's going to continue to be for Gillespie, right? He can't back off on that. That would be disingenuous. So that's out. So if you're voting for Gillespie, are you going to vote for Snyder because he's with Gillespie?
Is that a ticket?
It's a ticket, never been done. I love the idea. Probably get 80, 85%. So if Gillespie gets, 50%, that puts Snyder in the 40. Then there's probably another 5% out there, people that just like him, might vote for one of the other candidates, but like him, I think he wins.
Yeah, and Snyder has some decent name ID. He's done this before. He's run and not been successful, but there was a lot of just general talk amongst the grassroots. So he's known by those folks statewide because
he handled himself well after the 2013 loss, no question. And building off that, he's got a lane. The question is, does he want to take it, and how soon is he going to get in it? Again, time is short, tempus fugit.
Monday, I would say, if he gets in. Now, I've talked to him, and he says he's,
at least be signaling that he is intending to run.
No, it's got to be Monday. I don't think he'll wait. Monday, Tuesday at the latest. I mean, you got to get all these signatures. You got to get off the dime. He's Ed Gillespie's chairman. That's what he tells me he's going to stick with. But things change in politics. But I think you're both right. We're all right. If Pete Snyder gets in, he has a lane. I think if he gets in, he's going to be a very formidable candidate.